Oh my gosh. Are we boomers? Yes.
Did we do it?
How is everyone tonight?
Oh, man.
How many? How late are we?
Like 12
10.
minutes.
Oh my gosh. They are going to roast us for being late, but it really wasn't our fault. Things were just not working today.
Very true.
Unfortunately. It's never our fault, really. You know.
Yep.
That's just how it works. Oh my God. There we go. Now I can sit comfortably. Welcome to the Black Latch Games live stream. What is going on? As you can see here, high production value. Our camera framing's off. It was a disaster today getting set up. So we are glad to have all of you here with us though today. And let's see who's here. We got Scudder from Mike. Why do we play RPGs? We have no noble wars to fight, so we imagine our own. We came too late to explore the planet and too early to explore the stars.
Deep.
Yeah, super deep. I don't know about that.
We're going to get into the first part.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah.
I mean, people played war games even when they weren't fighting noble wars.
True.
People like games. People like playing at war. Play party games, you mean? Shawner, just instant disrespect. RPGs are a skin for party games. 1-to-1 is the new name of my play-by-post. The glowing D20 eyeballs attracted you here.
Yeah.
How's it going, squat, bench, deadlift?
What's happening, man?
How late will they be? That is the question. Now you know. It was a full 10 minutes. But you are getting some glorious feet pick action right now from young Steve, as always.
Yep.
It is summer. It's not summer. It's spring. So
it feels like summer.
Yeah. No, it doesn't.
Well, that's to me it does.
Yeah, this is not summer. This is quite pleasant. If it's like last summer, I'm gonna like lose it. Like legitimately. Last summer was horrible. Wonder what the first of the first principles is. Don't be a scrub.
It's a good one.
Doesn't leave people much left. Yeah. How's it going, everyone? Good to see you, Malachi. I don't know why I say Malachi. I say Malachi in my mind. And then I say it wrong. 128th, good morning. I think that's our bro from Russia.
Oh, hell yeah.
Gotta say, it feels weird having someone compliment L5E 3RER after everything that happened with it. L5E? I don't know what that is. Why is my mouse being stupid right now?
I don't know what that is.
I don't know.
I know what L5R is.
I don't know.
I'd rather not know what it is, though.
What is L5R?
Legend of the Five Rings.
Oh.
I know some people
I only
like it,
sort of know what that is.
Some Japanese game. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
What's not Japanese, but I don't know. Everything east of the Mediterranean doesn't make sense to me.
Part of it was for me was that we finally got a book on the lands outside of Rokugan. The rules that became the book were my group's house rules, hence the nostalgia. The book you're talking about was done by others, though, but it was excellent. How's it going, Mr. Max? Good to see you.
What's happening?
I am a foundational issue. Late as usual. We're not always late. Uh-oh, Overt Otter super chatted us.
Any of your source books you'd recommend?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have many VTR source books I would recommend. It depends on what you want. If you want to really get creepy with ghouls, the Ghouls source book, which is over on my shelf right now, which is unfortunately I bought it off of eBay and it was a print on demand. Yeah, I was super pissed.
Big yikes.
Yeah. But
oh my God.
We got another one. Kenny Dollar subscribed. All right.
Oh.
Here we go. We have Damnation City is an excellent VTR source book that I have only flipped through so far, but everyone says it's one of the best. And it was
I haven't read all the source books, but Damnation City is excellent for VTR, for VTM, for any game, really.
Yeah.
It's a great resource.
Anything where you need to build a city, like a modern city in
Right.
particular, with
Even
lots
if
of
it's
corruption.
not modern, there's like obviously a lot of things are going to change, but the advice and the way of thinking about it is good for literally any game.
Yeah, it's very good, and it came from a time period when we got another super chat. A time period when the
I regret to inform you that the Texas summer is going to be as bad as last year. Likely 100 by next week at Reg.
God damn it.
Well,
Last year really sucked. My first summer here was amazing. Amazing. But back to the important stuff, and thank you for the $5.
thank you. Man.
So Damnation City is excellent. The Covenant books, I really liked the Lancea Sanctum one. I didn't get the second edition Secret of the Covenants book.
But you said that the second edition Covenant books in general were good, right?
Well, so the first edition had a book for each one. The second edition is a single volume that's all of the Covenants, called Secrets of the Covenants, which I never read that one. The clan books, which were also towards the end of the 1E life cycle when VTR really got good, are amazing, and those are recommended even in the VTR second edition. Like, these are the books you can use; they're fully compatible. They were really good. Let's see, what else would be good? The Coteries book is actually pretty good. And it depends on what flavor you want. Like, pretty much all of them are good. The ones I stay away from are the Bloodlines books, because Bloodlines are stupid.
It defeats the purpose of VTR.
It defeats the purpose of simplifying the clans down to 5 archetypes. So I just, Bloodlines are not a part of my games at all. And if you want a good city book, which I also have on the shelf over there, is City of the Damned New Orleans. Is excellent. The kind of adventure that they have at the back of it, the opening scenario, is a little bit bland, but it is meant to be kind of like, this is a starting point, go do something. Like, there is a mystery there, but it's meant to get you running into different characters. But that book is fucking awesome. It did, however, come out right before Hurricane Katrina, so it didn't do very well, and the nature of the city changed. So if you want to run like a pre-Katrina version of New Orleans in the World of Darkness, then it's fucking awesome. I think Damnation City influenced the Block by Bloody Block book for Hunter the Vigil. I'm sure it did.
I bet.
Like, the V5 draws very heavily from Requiem second edition. And so it does not surprise me that a bunch of stuff got...
Well, Hunter the
Quick
Vigil.
question. Do you like Dan 5? You ignore politics.
Quick question.
5e.
Do you like D&D 5e? Ignore
No.
politics. No.
No.
I've actually never played 5e. Nick has.
I have.
And he hates it.
I hate it. I really do hate it. Everybody's the same. That's really the worst part. You take away, the politics. Everything and everybody feels the same. I think there's an over-reliance on advantage, disadvantage. I don't like having a skill loadout. I like being able to customize my character and have them be different. I'm just not a fan of it.
Yeah, I don't... art really influences how I view a game a lot, and
the
I
art is
really,
atrocious.
really hate the 5e art. The Monster Manual art is atrocious. And I was never compelled to pick it up. I remember reading like the basic rule set that came out when it first got released, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this kind of feels like D&D. It's not so much like 4e, which was a big departure.
Sure.
And we are playing 4e next week. We thought it was this
Yes.
week, but John Smith is going to be running a game for us. We have our characters made, and he made them for us. But
We printed them out.
Yeah, we did print them out. On the wrong sized paper.
Yeah.
Because that character sheet's formatted for like legal paper or something like that. I don't know. It did not fit all on
Very much in keeping with
the
40
ethos of
yeah.
yeah. So we're going to be playing that starting with level 3 characters and doing that for like maybe 3 sessions or so just to get kind of the feel for it.
Yeah, it should be fun. I'm interested.
I am very
never played
interested in it. I like opened the book though and I was like, holy shit, this is a lot of powers and abilities.
Yeah.
I was like,
That is the book.
Yeah, that is the book. And it seems like it's almost totally focused on combat, which is fine. I mean, combat's fun, but that to me is another reason it doesn't really speak to me right off the bat. But no, not a big fan of 5e. I don't hate it in the same way that like lots of other people do. What is going on with this mouse?
There's no need to hate it.
There we go.
Like, just don't buy it.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, don't buy it.
There's a million other games.
Right.
And there's old games that you can play. Like there's so much shit out there. The only flip side of that is that everybody plays 5e and nobody wants to try something new. So I understand that. But not a big fan, but I also don't like loathe it. Because again, I haven't played it. But I trust Nick's taste. He is generally correct about these things.
Correct. Yes.
Laughing at you from California. Well, I understand California does have the best weather and the best geography, but it's full of Californians. And everyone's like, oh, well, Texas is getting full of Californians. You have no idea what it's like. I grew up in California. Laughing in Pennsylvania weather.
Oof. I'm not.
Is talking about D&D 6E's PHB cover art too cringe?
I think the discourse is cringe. You could have an opinion on it.
Yeah.
But like again, it's a little bit better, or it's a little bit worse. Like, is it AI? Is it not AI? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not good. And you know anything that you don't like about 5e, whether it's the political things or
the game systems.
Or the game system, the rounded edges, it's not going to change.
Right.
It's not 6e is not going to fix things. It's not going to get better.
It's going to be worse.
It's going to be worse.
Yeah.
Yes. Somehow.
Yeah. I will say though, I think that the cover art for the new player's handbook is better than the 5e.
That's true. It is better.
Because I hate
the art.
I hate the 5e core 2014 cover art for the PHB. It's so bad. What's good, bros? Good to see you, Dunder Moose.
Man.
I watched him and Patty and DM Blackwall paint minis last night.
Yeah, I tuned in for a little bit of that.
What the fuck is going on with this mouse? There we go. You're in California. Have fun avoiding the needles and stuff. Yeah. Yes, this is true. Dunder Moose was on Rollin' Bones, and it was a great show.
It was.
Definitely looking. I'm always looking. I really mean this. I watched the Rick Stump reappearance today.
I didn't check it out. I saw that was.
It's good. Rick is the guy who's been literally running AD&D for 45 years. Same campaign.
It's really interesting.
It's really cool.
I'll probably watch it tomorrow.
They were talking about like the weird shit that's happened in that game where there was a character who had like, they knew there was some like evil machine underground. And so he used like a wish spell to, it was, it was crazy. It's like he uses a wish spell to not be able to die unless he like destroys the machine or something like that. And they give him a Giaz, like a quest to do this. And then to figure out like which things are like the bad controls to use on it. So he goes down and he uses it, and one of the bad controls gives him a Giaz of like, you have to serve the machine for eternity. So
there's conflicting.
His conflicting motivations. So it like drives him insane, and he basically is like a vampire in terms of like indestructible. So he's just this like madman that like lives on this mountain that everyone tries to avoid.
It became worse.
Yeah, and he's like, I couldn't have come up with that.
Yeah. That's pretty funny.
It is pretty funny. Where I live in California, we don't have that issue. We all have pew-pews to keep that stuff away. Our sheriff grants concealed carry permits all the time. That's nice. Good for you, man. I'm going to Nolans tomorrow. Nice. I have not been there. I do want to go.
How far of a drive is it from here? 8 hours?
More than that. It's got to be, maybe. It might be 8 hours.
Huh.
But it's like a cheap flight, so it would like not make sense to drive.
Yeah.
Although I hate flying. How's it going, Brother Grognard? I would like to run a pre-Katrina New Orleans in real life, yeah. D&D 5e books suffer from very bad editing. That does not surprise me.
Yeah.
5e gives us the illusion of choice.
Sure.
And as it progressed, it relied more and more on advantage, disadvantage, and that was a mistake. But it is great in a vacuum. Yeah, I mean, it's a cool mechanic. I don't have anything wrong with that.
It's an interesting
idea. If you use it for everything, then yeah, it'll skew the
all
results.
challenges become the same.
Yeah. I enjoyed 5e, but then everything started to turn commie in it. Yep. I like having meaningful choices. Yes.
You're correct.
Yeah, that's like speaking of first principles, that's one of the most important things to me in an RPG. We will get to that at some point. Combat is way more fun in Savage Worlds than 5e. That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Let me scroll. Oh my God, the cursor keeps moving. All right, what do we got here?
Holy shit.
28 millimeter.
You're wild, man.
Giving us $50 for not saying anything. Rick, if you got something to say, let us know. We'll take those Canadian 50 smackaroos.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much. But we'll wait and see if you've got something else to say. If you accidentally just sent us money without, saying anything, because that's happened before and that sucks.
Yes.
Hope for the best. Good to see you. How's it going, man?
What's going on?
Holy shit! This thing is driving me insane. Give me this. Maybe this will work.
There you go.
There we go. Much better. Okay. Who says, let's see. Eli V says, Black Lodge Games. So what are these first principles of RPGs? Well, we put out kind of a call on Twitter to see what everyone else's first principles were. Oh, that's right.
I forgot you did that.
Yeah, because we had been talking about it. Actually, it was because we were watching the Rollin' Bones with Dundermoose. Because we kept pausing it and talking about things because a lot of the stuff, and this is not like what Dundermoose was like explicitly doing or anything like that, but a lot of the debates surrounding things like one-to-one time, or should you be using random encounters, or basically any RPG philosophy stuff, it seems at base most of the time for most people to be focusing on like technique. Right. Like, what is the best technique to have the best game? What's the thing that you do that produces the cool experience or whatever? And it's like, it's not really a foundational. It's like, what's underneath that? Like, what is the goal in the first place?
There's a limited utility. Having a discussion or examining a technique only has utility insofar as you are starting from that framework. You're evaluating a tool, a technique, a mechanic, a procedure, in order to see how well or not well, how good or poor it produces a certain effect.
Yeah.
Or it completes a certain job.
Yeah. It's like all of these rules, everything we're doing, it's in service to a goal of some kind. Right. And it's like we all come from very different standpoints on what the goal of even playing the RPG is. What is an RPG? What is the unique thing that RPGs do that keeps us coming back to them that other mediums don't do?
And the discussion, again, it's a thing on Twitter in general, but certainly in the RPG space, every time these discussions come back around, they orbit for a few days to a few weeks, and it really does seem to be the case that most people are trying to find the answer in the book or in the perfect, what would you say, the perfect like instantiation of this rule as it was written, whatever that might mean, or universally applying this particular technique, 1-to-1 time, right? It has these effects. It's going to do all these things for you. Not really. Whether you love or you hate, I'm going to use 1-to-1 time because that's
just as an
the most recent thing in the discourse. Whether you love it or you hate it, it's certainly true that as a procedure, as a rule, it does incentivize certain things, or it makes it easier for certain events or certain situations to arise, but that's not the same thing as, like worshiping this rule, this technique, expecting it to transform your game. No rule, no tool, no matter how well crafted or how well engineered, is going to do anything for you unless you know what it is you're trying to do.
Yeah, what is the thing that you want? And again, we were talking about this because it's not to say that doing these things isn't going to produce cool things.
Sure.
And like it may be a fine idea. Like that's really not the issue. It's that a lot of this seems to be almost thinking in this like sort of Platonist, like, let us find the idealized procedures, and then when we just start rolling the dice with the procedures,
the machine will create
the machine is going to create this experience for us.
That's never the case.
Yeah.
In anything, you have to have an idea and a conviction in what it is you're trying to do,
right?
And why is that? And that part of it, that more fundamental aspect, it's completely absent as near as I can tell.
It's the more interesting thing to me because
it's more interesting, and it's of greater utility. It's more interesting. I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, because for me, it's like we think that the kind of nature of these games, the things that they do that other things can't, is to create this sense of character immersion where you feel as though you were really there as this person doing this thing.
Correct.
And while like game elements and having like these cool, and we can talk about the word emergent in a minute, these like emergent properties and things like that, it is awesome. It's super fun, very entertaining on its own. That is entertaining on its own. Like there is this next thing though that is produced by that, and it comes like really more internally. Like you have to be willing to really suspend your disbelief for this kind of state to emerge, this flow state that you get into that produces this very real experience in your mind. And certain games are better at getting you to that point. And the more and more that I've played and really thought about this a lot more explicitly, because it's really just been since we started Black Lodge Games that we've been thinking about this stuff, like really actually thinking about it instead of just going off of our intuitions and kind of our own experiences on things. We haven't made the ideas explicit until this last year. But for me, in order to get that experience, it's like that experience is what I am chasing, and that's what I want. I need the game to have consequences, basically. And this is why I think people conflate with what we do with like the story gaming people and whatnot, is that the story gaming people also want this kind of immersive experience, but they're doing it in a way where they're fundamentally cheating themselves out of the best part of that, which is not knowing where things are going, and there being real stakes and the chance of failure and for unexpected consequences to emerge from gameplay, things that no one could have predicted. Like exactly like what we were talking about, that Rick Stump example where the guy has multiple curses put on him that are giving him conflicting goals that he has to to pursue simultaneously. If you're not actually respecting the rules of the world, then you cannot get that thing. So there is this element of like, you have to be aiming at some level of simulationism in the world as a baseline in order to produce this experience. And I don't know where I was going with that, but we're still thinking about this is the thing,
right.
which is why we put this out on Twitter.
But like to take it back a bit, what do we, and we'll talk more about it, but what do we mean more specifically by our first principles as opposed to what seems to be like the general first principles, which are not, most people are not consciously aware of. Most people, I think it's fair to say, if they were to examine what they're trying to do, which is an impossibility for a lot of people. Why am I doing this thing? What am I trying to get out of it? Why is it good? It's good because it's an excuse. It's either an excuse to socialize with friends, or it is just, what would you say? It's just an exercise in like crude recreation. The idea of a popcorn,
Right.
beer and popcorn, or what would it be? Beer and pretzels, or like a popcorn movie. I just want to switch my brain off, and I want like good vibes to happen to me.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that on its own.
Yes, there is.
Well, no, because sometimes I want to watch a popcorn movie.
Yes, but
for the game, that's not what I want.
But as a thing that happens to you, like that's a happy.
Oh, it's a passive thing.
That's a passive,
that's
happy byproduct.
Yeah.
I would say having that as a goal in like really any activity is enervating, and it is bad, I think. And I veg out, and I switch my brain off as well, but I shouldn't do that. And I don't think anybody really should. It's a more actualized, it's a better use of your time, and it's a more fulfilling life if your quote-unquote recreational activities, your quote-unquote hobbies, as much as you can, are thought of and viewed from a perspective of, I'm trying to get better at something
and get something more out of it than no I agree with you because I veg out too. I like doing that, and I do think that is valuable. For a hobby though, that is not, like, watching TV is not a hobby.
Yes.
A hobby is something that requires you to take action and like actually be engaged with. And so people who are like, well, I just want to have some fun and throw some dice, I'm like, cool, I guess, whatever. But
you're not doing anything.
You're not doing anything. Yeah. Like there's so much more value you can get out of this. And
when you're taking hours a week at minimum, if it's one thing to come home from work and I'm going to I'm just going to relax, I'm going to decompress for a half hour or whatever, and I'm going to turn the TV on, or I'm just going to sit on the couch. That's one thing. That's what you're doing. That's recovery. Yeah. It's like sleeping in a certain way. But if you're actively dedicating time, it's like burning money. You are literally burning time. The precious hours, days, and weeks of your life, and getting nothing back. You are, as your parents have told you from the get-go, you are wasting your life if you are doing that. Same thing with any TV, video games, anything. Unless you're trying to do something, get an experience or get better at something, it is a waste. If you don't have an end in mind, you may as well be asleep.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, agreed. Sometimes I feel like Ginger Fraser is staring into my soul.
He is.
I am. You aren't wrong, but WotC ruins everything they touch, even their good ideas. It's like the Twisters poster where the threat is behind the heroes. Yes,
What is that
for the PHP art. Yeah. Good reference. I haven't thought of Twister in a
Deep
very
cut.
long time. Yeah. But again, there's also the movie Night of the Twisters, which was a made-for-TV movie about tornadoes, a horror movie that came out before Twister. What I find funny is the Redditors try to create other genres or games in 5e where there are perfectly made games already created. 5e mind rot. Yeah, I know. It's like they're trying to shove everything into this one game system. It's not meant for everything.
Right. And it's simply it's a cynical, it's not even cynical. It's a brainless recognition that 5e is ubiquitous and popular.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm going to slap.
What if we had 5e, but yeah. Yeah, who fucking cares?
It's bad.
Dunner Moose says, I need to have you guys on to talk about the future technique thing.
Future technique.
I don't know what the future technique thing is. We'll talk about it,
In
though.
the future, though.
Yeah. No,
absolutely.
We're 100% down to come and talk to you. Did you hear the old Steve
did
Buscemi
hear
got
that.
attacked? I didn't.
Fortunately, he was assaulted in New York City. Can you believe it?
Of all places.
Of all places. But thankfully, he sent me transmissions back. And so when I'm his age, that won't happen to me.
Yeah. I was thinking about this today. What is the difference between a skirmish game like Mordheim and something like Shadowdark? It has to be the intention of the game and how the rules
Do you
support
use
that.
short-term, mid-term, or long-term consequences on your players? If so, what does it look like?
We use all
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah.
We're going to get back to the super chat in just a minute, though, because that was an interesting question here.
Yeah.
We'll get right to you. Thank you for the $20.
Thank you, man.
$20.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Thank you, Common
Very
Jay.
generous.
That's very generous. We will definitely get back to your question in one moment. What's the difference between a skirmish game like Mordheim and something like Shadowdark? It has to be the intention of the game and how the rules support that. That is...
I think that's true.
Yes, that is true. And this is something that in the book, The Elusive Shift, by John Peterson, great book. Please go read it.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things that really stuck out to us was these discussions that were being had in these different publications, that it was like Gygax and Symbolist and Eisen and all of these like really, really, really smart guys. Symbolist basically said that the core philosophy of the game, like the base idea of it, defines every single thing about it. And most games don't have an idea, so which is why they're bad.
Yes.
But this is very true, and so this is why we kind of what we hooked into with Shadowdark is that it is a high time preference lifestyle. You're not gonna make domains. It doesn't have rules for that. You aren't going to go on these epic adventures. It's gonna be a little wacky and a little silly. And you're encouraged to, all your treasure, you're encouraged to spend as much of it as you can to get more experience. So you're constantly broke. And you have to go do it again. It's like this, you're playing like a lowlife, like who can't plan for the future. That's fun. Like that actually is a kind of a cool concept. And it was supported by all of this like really grimdark, goofy looking art. Like it has like its own vision. I am actually not familiar with Mordheim, but it being a skirmish game is a very different thing than Shadowdark. Shadowdark is not a skirmish game at all.
This is also a good segue into what we're going to read later.
Yes, because on that Twitter thread, we had an excellent post by Rule of Thule, who linked us to his Substack, and he had a really, really interesting piece that we're going to kind of just read and kind of react to. But let's get to this super chat here. Do you use short-term, midterm, or long-term consequences on your players? If so, what does that look like? So all of it. Like there's short-term consequences to everything. Obviously, it's like you can, depending on how you define short-term, it's like hit point damage,
right,
is a short-term consequence. If they do something really crazy and they have to make an escape, that is a short-term consequence. The kind of medium-term consequences of what they do, things come back to haunt them. Loose ends that were not tied up come back and are affect the game. So there's, for instance, like in the Axe game recently, several sessions ago, Nick and one of the other characters basically pulled this improvised heist and stole all of the money from the local ruler except for like 5,000 copper pieces for encumbrance reasons and like his battle standard banners and everything. And they got away with it scot-free. And they basically they did this. They hid inside the castle during the day. They broke into one of the barracks, found sets of military armor and armaments, basically disguised themselves as troops, went in and killed the guard and stole all the shit. And so they didn't plan on doing that. They didn't know where that was going to go, but they get away with this. And the thing is, as a game master, I'm always thinking of like, how would the people who discover this dead body in this very public place,
what are they going to think? How are
what
they
are they
going to
think? How are they going to react? What are they going to do to investigate? And I'm not telling the players that any of this stuff is going on, but the local priestess can speak with dead. So off screen, she does a speak with dead on this guy, and the guy responds to her. She's like, "Who killed you?" And he's like, "It was soldiers from inside Taros Tem, and like they're traitors among us."
Yep.
Later on, they pulled this like other ridiculous thing where they got one of the soldiers really drunk, used loaded up with psychedelic mushrooms, and used a bunch of like magical powers to increase their reaction rolls, and plus seduction, all this stuff, and basically had this character try to assassinate the priestess in public with the intent that, oh my God, an assassin, and they all kill the assassin and save her. This person was basically just a sacrificial lamb for them, and they killed her instantly. And one of the characters was like, and I bash her head in, like to where it's like unrecognizable. And as a result, the priestess was not able to speak with dead with that person. And so their plan confirmed the suspicions that she had that like, oh my God, there's like some traitorous element inside the castle right now.
Right.
Whereas had they not said that they bashed in the head too much, she would have spoken with dead and they would have been in a lot of trouble, which would have been hilarious in its own right. I almost kind of wish it had gone that way.
Yeah.
But my thing is, like, I'm always trying to think of the consequences of what the NPCs are doing in reaction to the players, and also what they're doing in reaction to everything else. Like, well, the biggest example in this game was that they were, doing the dungeon crawl, and in about a week and a half of game time, they managed to kill essentially everything on the first level of the dungeon. And they didn't. It wasn't just through combat encounters. They did a whole bunch of stuff where they had the monsters kill each other and double and triple crosses. It was fucking awesome. And so the kind of evil guy, the big bad evil guy who lives on dungeon level 2, finds out about this and is like, what the fuck? Like half of my troops are gone. It's like a 75 room dungeon, basically. They get all but one room. So she sent a dragon to the edge of the forest and was like, when they try to come back, fucking kill them. Like, this is not acceptable. They killed the dragon before the dragon could make an attack on them. It was absurd. Like, they hit the dragon a couple of times, and right before its initiative, the character priestess that's in the party casts Word of Command to sleep. Dragon fails its save, drops. The next round happens, and if they had not killed it it was going to like breath weapon all of them and probably do a TPK. But since it was asleep, the assassins were able to backstab it and just murder this thing. Mm-hmm. Lady Below finds out about this. What does she do? She gets the fuck out of town. She's like, I'm not waiting for this superpowered group of maniacs to come and kill me. So she leaves and she sets all of the monsters from dungeon level 2 to go and sack the countryside as like a diversion. And so this caused like a huge mass combat that they had to do, which was fucking awesome, by the way. The Axe mass combat rules are super, super quick. Really, really great. And so now they've had this huge battle. They've been, granted land by the local ruler because he can't pay them because they robbed him. It's like all of this, none of this is pre-planned. Like the planning that went into this was that there's a premise. We have this dungeon where something is actively happening. It's not just sitting there waiting for you to loot it. Like it's causing problems for the surrounding area. You have a bunch of characters, non-player characters in town that all have their own interests, their own goals. And then when the characters start going and interacting with those things, I'm basically just like trying to think, what would actually happen? And sometimes you're using dice rolls to augment the decisions you're making. And
I mean, all of this is to say, like, you need to have a focus and an awareness and a familiarity with, if you're the GM, with the NPCs. Because you could say, okay, how would the world react? I understand what you mean, but it's not so much that the world is reacting.
No.
Like in the example you're giving of an actual game we've been playing.
Yeah.
As is the case always. How are people in the world going to react to the information that they have?
Right.
And what second and third order effects are going to happen as a result of that?
Right.
If you focus on that, and if you focus on being really familiar with your NPCs, this will happen naturally.
And when you make the priority to role play the NPCs,
yes,
and and again, from I do this is the exact same way that I'm going to role play my own character when I'm a player, just like a player. You treat them no differently. It's put yourself in the mindset of that person and try to make decisions as that person, given the information that they have, and this will create consequences for your players. There's no way around that. And these things tend to build over time and snowball.
And this is real quick. Like, we've gambled a lot. Like, sometimes there are positive consequences.
Sometimes there's negative. Yeah.
Right. Like, who knows? It could have gone with that dragon, with anything, but with that dragon, it could have gone in one of two extremes.
It was some of you were going to die. Undoubtedly. I would venture to say all of us. Probably.
But it didn't turn out that way.
It didn't turn out that way. Yeah.
It could have. And eventually, maybe next session, something, it'll all come crashing down. Or it won't. Or
right. And this was also a circumstance where you guys had a lot of advantages that you could have used against the dragon, but you didn't, because it's like they had like a potion of dragon control that they found in the dungeon, but that was back in town with a different character.
Yes.
They didn't have that opportunity to use that on this fucking dragon.
Yeah.
But you do have it for the next time you run into a dragon, which is something to remember. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's basically, roleplay solves. Roleplaying is the activity. The activity is putting yourself in the mindset of this character and acting as they would within the constraints of this genre and this world. That is the game. Like, regardless of what system you're using, whether you're using one-to-one time or whatever, procedures and everything, they help support that. But that is the core activity. And so if you do that, and you respect what the dice tell you when you use the dice to resolve uncertainty in the game, because that's what they're there for. They're there to resolve the results of actions that don't have a certain outcome. And if you respect what the dice do, this is going to create consequences for you. Like, most of the time, I don't have to like come up with consequences, because The consequences happen as a
Consequence
result
is
of
readily
of-
apparent.
It is readily apparent. Yeah, you are dead. Or
Yes. When you role play, when you focus on role playing on either side of the table, and when everyone is focused on doing that, everything does fall into place, and
Yes.
it's the only. It's the only thing where everything else falls into place. If we knew somehow all of Axe by rote, by heart, could quote it to the page, knew it better than McCrease did, that's good. That's going to make things a lot smoother, and it's going to alleviate a lot of problems. But it's not going to make everything fall into place.
Right. Because fundamentally, it's about you making choices in the world, and about the GM who's playing the other NPCs in the world. They are making choices, and there's going to be consequences to that no matter what, simply because of opportunity cost. Like, this is one of the things where I think that people need to know economics, and I don't mean like you need to read huge tomes or whatnot, but you need to know the basics of economics and what economics actually is, and that is the study of human action. It is about studying the implications of people making choices between things, of preferring one thing and setting aside the other alternatives, because that is what we are doing every time that we make choices. We're doing this under conditions of scarcity, and that causes all sorts of things to happen. And when you look at NPCs as not a character in a story or anything else, but as a real person who has to make choices under conditions of uncertainty and under limited resources, if you respect that, then there's no way to get around a game having consequences. I don't know. This is getting a little out in the weeds, but only people who know. Here we go. I don't know if Jeff Rose in the chat, but if he is, only people who know economics can play D&D correctly. That's really what it comes down to. That was a good.
Thank you for the $20.
Thank you for the $20. That was a good, well spent and a very good question. Let's see if we missed anything up here.
Almost certainly.
Canadian Moose, that's correct. The banks, I don't know what we're talking about here. I'm just clicking on chats at random. Long live the moose. That's right. We do like the Dunder Moose.
That's right.
Chasing the dragon and the dungeon. Canadian military veteran care when a former serviceman is having suicidal thoughts. Do it. Yeah. We have the pod for you. Just step inside.
Yeah.
4D trolling. Nice. I like it. There is something about those few bright moments of immersion that here your physical heart starts beating faster for an imaginary thing manifesting straight from your imagination. Correct. Yeah, that's the thing, is like those are the moments that you're going to remember forever,
Right.
And everybody's had them, is the thing. And we want as many of those moments as possible. We want them to last as long as possible. And so it's like, how do we get there and how do we do it? It's if you treat your character as being real in the world, whatever world it is, then that is bound to happen. And even people who are playing in what we would consider the worst way possible, no imagination, no anything, they accidentally end up role playing at some point, and they accidentally stumble onto these amazing moments. It's like you can't avoid it when playing these games. The real foul possibility is when people show up only to be entertained, not to actively play. Yeah. Holy shit. I fucking hate that.
People.
Yeah, which is most people. Yeah. It's not a passive activity. And if you are like, oh yeah, we're going to play D&D, I can't wait to see what the Dungeon Master came up with this week. It's like, fucking get the fuck out. Like, you're doing it wrong. This is not like
Yeah.
And I have to keep it trying to tell new players, because we keep getting more of them. Like when they killed the dragon. Our new player, our friend Jordan, was like, man, I feel like we just killed the final boss 10 levels before we were supposed to, or something like that. And I was like,
look at it that way.
I was like, that's not out.
That's not how it works.
I was
That's
like,
not,
it's not how it
that's
works.
not what
Yeah.
happened.
I was like, it's not what happened. I was like, and them stealing the bank and the banners, like that was totally fucking unexpected. I had no,
Yeah.
I did not think that was going to happen in the session at all.
I did it, and I didn't expect it.
Yeah, I know. I'm like a dog. I just do
I
things.
just do things.
Yeah.
Wouldn't know what to do if
Yeah.
I found one.
And after that happened, like we took a break to go smoke and everything like that. And I was just sitting there. I was like, holy shit. Like this really just shook things up. Like, I was like, this is wild. It was really, really fucking cool. Or it's an excuse to emotionally blackmail people to, and exercise narcissistic control over the game. I need my safety tools.
Yeah.
I think RPGs is a collaborative creative experience. It gives people the chance to flex their creative muscles with others, other than simply by themselves. It is that, but it is not only that.
Yeah, I mean,
That's, again, it's more like, I feel like that's more of like a secondary
it's a secondary thing.
that comes as a result of it.
Right.
Let me see here. The players end up doing minimum in the game, and the DM plays everyone for full control. Yeah, I hate that. May as well be NPCs. Yeah.
Worse than NPCs.
Getting better at a lot of things is a waste of time. Yeah, I mean, well, I think I understand what you're saying. Getting better at one or two things is usually, you'll make more progress on that than trying to be better at 50 things.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah.
99% of people can't do that.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Regrettably, I was one of those people once. You just need to try one more system to break the conditioning. In my case, it was Call of Cthulhu. Nice.
Yeah, it's sometimes sometimes that does happen. Again, one of the rare moments where Matt Colville is right. This is the especially pernicious thing about D&D. It's also why it's so popular, is that it's about nothing.
Yeah.
It's a pre-digested, like, omni product
Yeah.
that doesn't stand for anything, does not try to be anything, actively dissuades any attempt to take a stance, an artistic stance, a genre stance beyond vague fantasy.
Yeah.
And so you're sort of trapped. You know, it encompasses the most amount of people, and the vast amount of people are incapable or unwilling to try and roleplay, to try and take the extra effort to realize, hey, my time actually is precious, and but there is something here that I'm legitimately getting an active enjoyment from. What is that?
Yeah.
What is that? Why do I feel that way? And how do I do that better and more often? So when you find something like Call of Cthulhu, or a more curated, or a more, what would you say? You know, like a more auteur kind of.
I mean, something that focuses more on the character being a real character. Like, it's character driven. Like
and you can't get much more, like, be a normal
well, it's
be in the
like that's one of the advantages of horror games, and this is why, like, I posted a while back that every D&D player should be required to play Vampire the Masquerade for at least 6 months. And it's not just because, like, oh, I like the goth storyteller system or whatever. It's not it at all. It's because it literally, the game is premised around you creating a character that has goals, and even depending on what you choose, like, you can choose a fighter in D&D. Mm-hmm. That can mean basically anything. Like, sure, there's the archetype there. You're going to, have a domain at some point. If you actually read the book and play, you will attract troops and stuff like that. That doesn't tell me anything about the character, though.
Yeah,
it tells me some things, but it doesn't tell me who they are, what their goals are. Like Vampire, you create a character, you choose a clan. That tells you shitloads about your character, and it immediately puts you against other clans that have other agendas, other prejudices, and hatreds. You choose whether you're the Sabbat, the Camarilla, or the Anarchs. This is a big choice of, you have conflicting goals now. And if you have people playing different clans, people playing different covenants, if you're playing with like within the subsects of all these things, like this is pitting you against each other and against the rest of the world in a way that like you have to make choices as that character, and you already have something instantaneously that's giving you like material to role play, you know?
Right.
Like it's not like the just we spawned in the wilderness and now we're at the town and now there's a dungeon. There, like if you do that well, if you have NPCs, like the Sinister Stone of Sakara is a great module for this. Very well done. If you don't have any of that, it's going to take you a while to find out who the character is and come up with goals, you know?
Yes.
And it's much better to have that at the start, which is why I like very opinionated settings. You know, I want settings that have conflict built into them. I want the game to have conflict that I can latch onto, that I can go, oh, that's cool, and just immediately run with that.
Right.
As opposed to like waiting for that. It's not waiting for it, but
well, I mean,
discovering that and creating it on your own, which will happen anyway as a result. But it's like, give me like just a little framework of who hates who, and I'm ready to go.
And it has to be that way, because as people, as thinking creatures, part of your identity is where and when you are, right? We would all be very different people if we were born, you know, in China, 3000 BC.
Yeah.
Same genetics, same everything else. The world, just like a good movie, or a movie is a good example. Like, the setting needs to be a memorable character, just as much as the NPCs and the player characters, if for no other reason than to be fertile ground to understand how and why people act the way that they do.
Yeah.
This is also why I'm not as what would you say, aggressive against backstories as such. There is such a thing as too much, and there is definitely such a thing as bad. Yeah. If you do anything badly, it is definitionally bad.
Yeah.
But I did not spawn in here.
Yeah.
I existed before session 1. There are things and there are attitudes and there are habits that define me. Yeah. At least in part. I remember these things. And again, it can't be any other way. Everything that I remember happened in the past.
And a good backstory gives you goals.
Yes.
So the moment you start role-playing, you already have goals. Mm-hmm. You don't have to go looking for them. You've got them already, and you can pursue those things. And your goals will probably change, just like a real person, you know?
Right. They have to. They can't not.
They can't stay static.
If you are like a real person.
Yeah.
If you're being a believable, realistic individual.
Right. Yeah, and this is and to get back to the thing of like only people who know economics can play D&D or whatever. I need to refine the wording on that because I can't remember Jeffro's actual statement. It's only Christians can play D&D or something. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Can play role-playing games,
but the thing is,
D&D.
the economic way of thinking is about teasing out consequences. It's about teasing out the second and third order effects of things. And so some people are just better at that, like to begin with, but it is a pattern of thinking that can be trained. And the more that you do that, the more that like the goofy funhouse world is not satisfying to me, because it's like, I'm like, this makes no sense. Like, like, but it is, that will make you a better game master. If you can do that, it will make you better at operating in the world too. If you can think in that way. Anyway, let's see here. Why is my fucking mouse doing this? Jesus Christ, just work. It's like anytime I go on a new surface, it's fine. There we go. Mordheim was such a good game from the Broken Blade.
I'll definitely take his word for it.
Yeah.
A man of good taste.
What the fuck is going on with this? There we go. In RPGs, like in life, die and learn. Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, wait. Being a GM is being a sociologist, logical thinker, mythologist, occultist, historian, world builder, group leader, and elf pretender all simultaneously.
I don't know about that one.
You left off economist. Oh, God damn it. Now the chat's jumping around. We're having all sorts of technical difficulties right now. It's super
Gremlins.
fucking irritating. Bum. And babysitter. Yeah, that's no good.
Only if you have bad players.
Yeah. It's actually simpler than that. Players do things, DMs and NPCs react to it. That's true to an extent.
NPCs can also be proactive.
Yeah, they can be
should
proactive, and they should be. My villains are not just sitting around reacting to the players. Right. Sometimes they have to react to the players, but they're going to do things to try and... well, this one's not because they cut her head off. She's dead now. Right. Economics is a study of human action.
Holy shit.
Oh, we got another one. Let's see here.
I delved into Tabletop's digital. The largest differences seem to be reaction, freedom, and interpretation. I'm now thinking interpretation has been undermined by hard skill stats. Descriptions of abilities seem to be more accurate than skills can be.
That $50?
$50.
Holy shit, Edens. Thank you.
Thank you, dude.
Yeah, let me reread this. Biden kind of flubbed a little bit, which is very out of character for him.
Yeah.
I delved into tabletop versus digital. The largest differences seem to be reaction, freedom, and interpretation. I'm now thinking interpretation has been undermined by hard skills and stats. Descriptions of abilities seem to be more accurate than skills can be. Interesting.
So I'm not sure what you mean by tabletop versus digital. I don't know if you mean like VTT or if you mean video games.
I think video games, probably.
And I would I'd have to think more about the specific examples, but it is 100% the case that creativity and vision have... what have they done? They've died... or they've been killed at the altar of engineering. And again, of technique, in the name of technique, in the name of clear, streamlined, so-called emergent mechanical systems and subsystems. There is 100% an over-reliance and an over-infatuation with rules and mechanics and ways of doing things without not even a first thought, let alone a second thought, given to exactly what we're talking about. Why are we doing this thing? Why are we spending money and hours of our bank accounts and of our lives to do these things? What do we hope to achieve? If you even try to answer that question, I think you're going to get a much more fulfilling experience. Or if you're trying to create something, you're at least primed to get closer to something that is real or something that is resonant. And a big part of playing a character, it's a requirement, a fundamental aspect of role-playing and character immersion is the freedom to act as one would, given the constraints of the situation and the game that's being
and
played.
As one could. Because in these different genres and games, I don't have superpowers in real life.
Right.
So what would it be like if I did have superpowers?
I'm going to act differently.
Yeah.
Right. And I need to interpret as a character, not just the rules. If I should know what's on my character sheet. Yes.
Yeah. Minimum.
But
yeah.
The character doesn't know his mechanical attributes as mechanical attributes. Just like
he knows them as something that is real and integrated with him.
Right. But you have to as people navigating the world, we have to interpret the world, interpret things
Yes.
and other actors. That's what living is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's uncertainty.
Yes.
And that's what is awesome about these things.
And you can't do that in video games. That's not a knock on video games. I love video games.
Yeah.
By nature of what they are,
But they have hard constraints on
they have
them.
hard
Yeah.
constraints. And so the best you can do is be inspired or shown a picture or a sequence or an aesthetic or a sequence of dialogues which are interesting or cool or evocative or resonant. And I can, after the fact, try and like inhabit that space, and I can imagine, it's pure make-believe at that point. I see something from a movie or I see something from a video game that really strikes me for whatever reason. I might, after the fact, imagine what it would be like to be that character, or to be me, or to be a different character in that same situation. But I can't actually change the video game. I can't actually do that in the video game. In a role-playing game, you can, and you must, because that is the core of the activity. And trying to get there where there is no distinction, there's no divide between me, the player, and me, the character. Those are trying to accomplish that and trying to get better at that and explicitly seeking to make that happen when I show up. Those are my first principles.
Yeah.
Because you were completely right. Several weeks ago, we were having a similar conversation, and I was trying to well, why is that good? Why is that resonant? And you're completely right. It's like the Alexander the Great, cut the Gordian knot. It's like the thing is good in and of itself by nature of the fulfillment and the excitement that it provides you with in the body and in the mind. Mm-hmm. It is good in and of itself. And it's good, and it's good because that is the one thing, that is the core essence that a tabletop role-playing game does, which cannot be done in any other medium.
Right. We do have Dice Tale saying economics is the dismal science. It comes down to maximizing utility. I gotta say, man, I completely disagree, and I won't harp on economics too much. But my main man, Ludwig von Mises, did say economics must not be relegated to classrooms and statistical offices and must not be left to esoteric circles. It is the philosophy of human life and action and concerns everybody and everything. It is the pith of civilization and of man's existence. And he's right. It is important to literally everything. It's not simply about maximizing utility. It is the science of human behavior and about man choosing ends and applying means to them. It's fascinating stuff. It's way better. Go read the Austrians, basically. Go read the Austrians. Don't read any of the dumb shit that they're going to make you read in a college classroom, is all I'm saying. It's way more interesting, and it will fundamentally change the way that you view the world. Let me see here. Clocking 4 hours of overtime today. Stumble home exhausted, only to hop on YouTube, and bam, the sight of the boys' blindingly white legs brings me wide awake. It's like two glow sticks in cargo shorts.
That's right.
You're damn right. Oh shit, showing up to be entertained best describes Critical Role fans. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, and that actually might be one of the big reasons that they are so disillusioned with actually playing the game.
That also best describes fans.
Fans, yeah.
Don't be a fan. If you want to get like really into and autistic about something, be an enthusiast.
Right.
But don't be a fan.
Don't be a filthy casual. All right, we got a whole bunch of conversation going on here. I think at this point, though, we should probably switch over and check out that article because we'll run out of time if we don't. And I did see your comment somewhere. Someone said there was only 20 likes on the video. Come on,
What the
guys. We
hell?
got 79 concurrent viewers. I would love to see 79 likes on the video if possible. I don't know if likes or dislikes actually do anything for the algorithm, but it makes me feel good.
Yes.
Yes. All right, so let me see here. This is going to show the chat for a second when I switch over to screen share, and then I will do this.
Nope.
Oh, you son of a
had
bitch.
it.
There we go.
There we go.
All right. This is from Twitter user Rule of Thule, who's a great follow.
Oh, yeah.
Go become mutuals with him. I'm going to have to move closer to this because it's the correct size for the screen, but I can't read it from so far away. But this is...
Yeah, he was talking about exactly... No, he responded, you said.
He posted this on our thread about what are your RPG first principles, basically.
Yeah.
So we want to read through this. It's a little long, but it is very interesting.
It's well worth it.
Yeah, and Nick said he doesn't...
I don't fully agree.
Yeah.
This is really interesting. It's a great article. Thule does, to my mind, get a lot of things right, and he's thinking about... The fact that he's thinking about this at all is good. I just disagree with the fundamental conclusion.
So in other words, wrong.
Worst thing on the internet.
So the central confusions and failures surrounding modern tabletop role-playing games are largely a product of the mass forgetting of TTRPG historical roots. From a design perspective, covering these ideas comes in two parts. First, simple investigation and study, reading the old rules, playing them out, and seeing their implications. Second, combating poorly conceived notions that are derived from products masquerading as TTRPGs, or products whose core elements are a significant departure from the TTRPG intrinsic qualities. If we do not fight these ideas off, our designs and our gameplay are likely to become acculturated by simple inertia. To accomplish the second part, we have to get back to what a TTRPG actually is and what it isn't. And this is the interesting thing. If we want to get at the benefits that the TTRPGs have to offer, we must envision the most complete concept that surrounds and enables the Wizards and Lasers adventures. Without being distracted by the theming, we must look beyond specific rules or rule sets and ask about the essential nature of the TTRPG. This is the correct way to think about things. And it looks like I have to move this over just a tad because we're a little cut off. Oh, you son of a bitch. Just let me move the window, OBS. Why are you doing this to me? Oh, God damn it. Whatever. We're just going to roll with it.
Can you zoom out in the browser?
In the browser, I probably can. If I go here, like that. There we go.
There we go.
All right. Role-playing games are at least war games, but what is a war game and why insist on this term? Consider an ancient Roman general tasked with pushing the barbarians back from the borderlands. He assembles trusted commanders to his tent, and they discuss what is known and how to proceed. In this time in history, there are no mobile phones, neither internet searches nor TV news are available. The Roman general occupies a world completely different from our own, to the point of unrecognizability. The information he has is scant. Perhaps it's been a decade or more since his predecessors saw to this deadly problem, and few written records exist. Consider yet another world, that of the Cold War period in the United States, pre-1990. There are no smartphones. From a 2020s perspective, though radio towers and satellite signals are capable of creating rapid messaging systems. The challenge faced by leaders in this world are not of those communication delays or lack of knowledge references, but a political fog of war, one with a potential nuclear assault hiding behind it. To understand role-playing games, you need to understand nuclear warfare. I agree. The world of the Romans and the world of the Cold War era are vastly different from one another, and each are distinct from our own world today. Nevertheless, the Roman general's solution to his problem is remarkably similar to that of the U.S. Cold War strategists. The Roman general and his advisors discuss possibilities. If legions A and B are securing territory T, what are the downsides? Are we leaving holes open for the barbarians to attack our camps? Are there better distributions of manpower? Which risks are unavoidable? Which location, if scouted, could best inform our plans? Gaming out scenarios is an attempt to find the best course of action. A giant table is laid out, and 100 analysts and other functionaries of the U.S. government are given packets. You will be the Soviet Union. He will be Chile. She will be Cuba, and so on down the line. 100 roles, each with their own packet of dossiers, statistics, and essential facts. Each role is tasked with increasing the wealth, power, and station of its domain. This is wound up in the complexities of their side not losing and the opposing side not winning. The goal of this exercise is to discover new opportunities, threats, and a finer understanding of the mess the world has shifted towards. Gaming out scenarios is a means of uncovering the hidden rules embedded in this complex situation. Though there are no miniatures on the table representing Napoleonic-era fighting men, these two situations, separated by thousands of years, are different types of the same thing: wargames. Wargames are tools. Avoiding the trouble inherent in crafting a precise definition of a wargame, we can understand them best by grasping their purpose as a goal-driven, scenario-based exercise. Goal-driven and scenario-based. I agree with this. Do you disagree so far?
I don't disagree with that. With that as a good foundation for what a war game is.
Okay. Their structure offers the promise of answers that may be difficult to achieve except by gaming out the scenario. Sometimes the goal is to find the best solution to a situation. The Roman general wants to know the best distribution of his forces. Sometimes the goal is something more murky, like investigation. The nuclear war game is set up so that the participants' desire to perform well should uncover hidden avenues of victory and defeat. The fact that we often execute war games for entertainment is not a reflection of their telos. People can take joy in many things, and this is one of them. Also correct. Second world exercises. Already we can see that war games contain the seeds of the TTRPG, just as the Roman commanders envisioned what events might transpire with their barbarian foes. Excuse me, so too can we imagine the events and conditions of some other world. Just as the US government examined the subtleties of nuclear politics, so too can we explore the nuances of an imagined place filled with entities whose precise aims are uncertain. The TTRPG as a concept is the logical extension of these historical wargaming examples. When someone says RPGs are a wargame, it does not place any limitation on the TTRPG. The TTRPG is at minimum a wargame, and it has the ability to be substantially more.
Yeah.
So far, okay, we're good. I'm agreeing as well. A war game is usually concerned with a contained scenario, but an RPG extends the scenario to include an entire cosmology, the game world of possibilities. The game world of possibilities, excuse me. If we imagine a game world in enough detail and take the steps necessary to specify that world's nature to others, then they too can participate in this mental exercise. The imagined world need not conform to a known time and place. It is well within our ability to imagine possible events from prehistory, for example. In the same way, it's simple enough for creative minds to imagine places apart from what any living humans has ever experienced. Yes and no. I think we are.
I think I understand
what he's saying. I'm not disagreeing with him,
like,
but
yeah.
But we are limited. Our prior
By
experience,
being human.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, exactly. Thus, moving forward from the utilitarian aims of historical wargaming. Well, actually, there is something in here, though. If we imagine a game world in enough detail and take the steps necessary to specify that world's nature to others, this is where the Gonzo campaign.
I don't think this is a great sentence either, but
0 out of 10.
0 out of 10 sentence.
No, but this is something where the Gonzo people lose me a lot of times with the setting, is because it, like, there seems to be lack of internal consistency, and
right.
if it doesn't have internal consistency, if you cannot communicate its nature and its limits,
correct,
I'm like, get me the fuck out of here.
You know what would be funny? Going to a progressive game table and bringing a character who is a socialist on a surface level, but it turns out a few of his opinions reveal he's a National Socialist.
What a twist!
That would be pretty funny, I guess.
I am a socialist.
Yeah. Hello, fellow socialists. How do you do? Thank you, Matthew Pickard. We appreciate the super chat. Thus, moving forward from the utilitarian aims of historical wargaming exercises, it's easy to contemplate the second world exercise as a creative enterprise, as an engaging means of entertainment, or simply as a structured way of addressing imaginative what-if scenarios. But importantly, this is the TTRPG's beginning. It is the logical extension of the wargame concept to the fullness of a second world exercise. I think I agree with that. Because what separates all of this from simply just being make-believe and imagination is that there is this simulationist underpinning of like, no, what if this was real though? Mm-hmm. What if there were limitations? We're not just doing improvised storytelling, you know? And right. I don't think that would have developed out of anything except something like a war game.
I mean, I can't think of any alternatives.
Yeah.
That seems reasonable to me, and I don't strongly disagree because he hasn't really made his point yet. Apart from connecting tabletop role-playing games to their wargame roots, which I think is undisputably true. He has made.
Yeah, I feel
like a case for what a wargaming is and how you can approach it.
He's laying the groundwork.
He's laying the groundwork, and any disagreements I might have are ultimately not helpful at this point. But he's going to, in the next couple of sections,
all right,
start making his broader point.
Taking on roles. Possibly the most important innovation in Second World exercises is the role aspect from which role-playing games get their name. The Roman general will get the most use out of his attempts to counter barbarian movements if he can adopt the mindset, play the role of, the barbarian raid leader. Correct. Actors in any scenario are always limited by resources, plausibility, motivations, and so on. Attempting to understand their thinking will produce ideas that accord with their likely courses of action. If in nuclear politics war games, the various agents are given information to provide context for future decisions, but these exercises would be infinitely more useful if the actors could simulate what the actual world leaders would do. How does this idea extend to the TTRPG? Since the TTRPG's purpose is not problem solving, attempts to convey an internally consistent world are not aimed at some notion of accuracy. Instead, they are tools that enhance this creative exercise by offering additional constraints players must contend with and additional support for mentally meshing with game world circumstances. Are players stuck worrying over exactly what their character would think? Are players merely trying to simulate what these characters would say and do? No. Understanding the considerations their characters would naturally contemplate is a tool that helps them adopt a game world mindset. The decision-making is entirely up to the players taking on the role. TTRPGs are disordered. There are many ways to state this idea, but let's clarify what we mean. In the board game Betrayal at the House on the Hill, players choose from amongst characters with different strengths and weaknesses to investigate a mansion as a team. The mansion is discovered room by room, with the next room appearing determined in a manner similar to rolling a die. During the course of investigating this mansion, spooky things and traps will attempt to kill players or otherwise hinder their investigation. As the investigation ramps up, an endgame scenario will trigger. For example, the mansion will catch on fire, just like the shucked oyster. Some number of rooms will burn each game turn, setting a final time limit and putting enormous pressure on the players to bring things to an end or lose. Though this experience has many of the trappings of an RPG, no one could ever mistake this game for one. It is too highly ordered. Freedom is chaos. Consider an established TTRPG campaign where players dungeon crawl room by room through haunted houses like this. The players take too long or otherwise trigger the burning to start. They can simply insist on finding a way to put out the fire, or to avoid it, or ignore it, or otherwise defeat it. Even if you tell the players that the Pantheon's fire deity started the fire and specifically wants this place to burn, they can choose to defy him, even unto death. More to the point, they can defy the prescribed method of playing and insist that a second world have more objects of interest than the burning mansions. In a board game and in a video game and many other kinds of games, the rules tell us what we can do. But in a TTRPG, the rules almost exclusively tell us what we cannot do, often by implication, or how we can do a few particular things. On almost every matter, the rules are silent. Every matter, the rules are silent. The giant unstructured void of the game world dominates the tiny islands of well-specified structures that exist in the game. However, this does not mean anything goes. TTRPGs as second world exercises implicitly work on the basis of substituting our own world's rules into the game, except where the game's rules specify differences. How many TTRPG rulebooks explain the idea of gravity, things fall, or explain in detail what a door is, and how many ways it might be opened? Well, apparently no one's read Axe. No, I'm just kidding. Most people have noses or air tubes between their eyes, usually 2 eyes. Such details are unnecessary and serve only as a distraction. Creativity often defeats structure. Consider a wargame scenario with a battlefront along the border between Eastland and Westland. Based on the wargame's rulebook, it might be about moving supplies to optimally serve battles, or it might be about deciding where to place limited reserves of fighting men. It might be about a lot of typical logistics-focused activities that war necessarily involves. Let's see what the super
Some
chat.
say scratch a liberal, find a fascist. I say scratch a critter, find someone you don't want to play Turks with. Also, Matt Mercer's a fusslor.
Thank you for the comedic interjection.
Yeah.
I like the very irregular amounts you're super chatting to, like $7.32.
Yeah. It might be if it's Canadian, so he's probably choosing like a whole dollar amount and then it's converting it.
Yeah.
Let me see here. But if the Eastland versus Westland conflict was dropped into a TTRPG setting, a player whose character is loyal to Westland may decide to simply assassinate the King of Eastland and hope the army organization falls apart. Or he may decide to insist on a diplomatic solution, or he may decide to involve a third nation, and so on. A second world exercise has the same unimaginably huge solution space as a real-world situation. Problems can be attacked from angles that are difficult for a single mind to anticipate. That's why it's awesome. Even if the game is a prescribed way of playing, it is an essential aspect of a second world exercise that we can at least occasionally venture outside the lines of that prescription. This is what separates the TTRPG from other kinds of games, and it is why we say it is disordered in a fundamental way. Order not included. Though many of us have been exposed to disordered games, like make-believe, most players these days have been acculturated into highly ordered gaming spheres. These players come to TTRPGs expecting an ordered game. They look for ordered pathways through what they perceive to be the game's logical progression of state. For example, new players will read up on character builds so the characters they create can more successfully climb the level ladder. And just so you guys know, one of my players joined the Axe Discord, and Macrease has been helping him min-max his character. So I have that to look forward to. Once they reach near the highest rungs of that ladder, they tell themselves that the campaign is soon to reach its ending, that they intend to win the campaign by defeating the big bad guy. But no, the actual progression of the TTRPG's state is more naturally that new players make characters who fail because the players are inexperienced. Many such cases. Most computer games are so intensely ordered that we can speak of pathways or branches to reach specific endings. They are sometimes so highly ordered that we can achieve a full understanding of the game's narrative structure, including all of its mutually exclusive narrative pathways, by reading a relatively simple wiki. But consider the task of creating a wiki for the possibilities in a TTRPG, even a crude and simplistic one. It is not only infeasible to map out the ways forward from character creation, it is impossible in principle. Again, this is one of the things that makes these games so fucking awesome.
Yes.
And he's right. This is what distinguishes and separates them.
Is a thing that...
A thing. Yes. Yeah.
It's a big
one.
Thing. It's a big one.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Yes.
When we encounter a problem in a video game or board game, we think back to the rulebook. How do the game's mechanisms work, and which lever can we apply to solve the problem? But when we encounter problems in a TTRPG game world, there are no such limitations. Game mechanics are a mere point of entry into the logic that the game world runs on, and our problem-solving options are limited only by our imagination and our understanding of the game world's fundamental laws. If we want order in a TTRPG, Its only source is ultimately its players imposing their ordered will on the second world environment. This leads us to the next intrinsic quality of TTRPGs. TTRPGs are games. If TTRPGs are sprawling, disordered evolutions of war games, second world exercises, then there is a final lingering question: are they still necessarily games? The simple answer is yes. A few tiny islands of well-specified structure in the rules sit next to an overwhelming void of unspecified ideas. But importantly, those unspecified ideas are necessarily informed by the way things work in our own world. In our world, only metaphysicals are constants. All else is change. The state of things changes over time, but not because of some chaotic bubbling at the root of existence. Causes precede effects. We can exert an influence to steer outcomes. To skip beyond the over-philosophical musings, the world undergoes state changes, and we have inputs in those changes. The idea of success and achievement is related to our ability to create changes that empower or uplift ourselves. Players with their characters can achieve similar ideas of success through changing the game world's state to be more in their favor. Did they gain a class level, a big boost in personal power? Then they have been more successful than someone who didn't. I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, that is an objective, mechanical advancement.
This is true. So he's starting to put.
Let me finish the paragraph. Did they gain in-game wealth or influence important events? That's another dimension along which they can achieve success.
This is true from a mechanical standpoint. So I don't want to put too many words into his mouth before we finish, but you can see he's been slowly building his case and laying the foundation for what we're starting to see right now, which is his notion of what is most fundamental about tabletop games is it's a fundamentally gamist attitude where the freedom that you have, the lack of rules. You know, when he mentions, the tabletop rules imply what you can't do more than state what you can do. It's because it's not possible to have rules for, all quadrillion different things. So
it's infinite,
yes,
literally
this is true. That is indeed the case. That's a quality of RPGs, but he's ascribing way more value than I would to that being sort of like the foundational aspect. It is in some ways, in this attitude, the best type of game because things are so open, and so the function of role-playing, or the reason you would want to role-play, is not to immerse into a character, but to imagine and take seriously and hold in your mind more in-world challenges to overcome.
Yeah, I don't know that that's incompatible with what he's saying, though. Because when he tweeted at this, he also said that, he's like, immersion is a legitimate, vector, basically, oh God, what did he say?
Well, he did, but immersion isn't mentioned anywhere in this article. And I don't want to go too far without finishing the article. But.
Yeah, I don't want to either. But it's like the immersive experience, I think, is because he's talking about multiple dimensions of success, and it's like you can, did you gain in-game wealth or influence important events? That's another dimension. I think the immersion would probably also fit there. But let's see what else he has to say. Among all the organizing principles, the chief one that TTRPGs must naturally follow would have to be excellence in the sense of mastery. A second world is open to us, and the highest achievement we can envision is absolute mastery of it from within its own confines. This principle best captures the TTRPG's telos. It is an unending test of our abilities and an implicit challenge to go further. It is undeniably a game in the most essential sense. Okay, so this is what you were saying.
And he'll expound on this further.
There are multiple paths to excellence in this second world. A participant who is better at executing the game to achieve excellence within the game world is considered an excellent player. The organizing principle of excellence thus extends, like all games, to a meta level outside the game. It is a social phenomenon in its own dimension of success. Can playing a TTRPG create stories? Yes, but that is not its telos. Trying to design a TTRPG explicitly to create stories will see one constructing something else altogether. The events that happen during a TTRPG campaign can, on reflection, be considered stories, but no one sat down and wrote them out beforehand. If they did, then this TTRPG is not a second world experience at all. Can TTRPG game worlds be envisioned as giant simulations? Yes, but that is not its telos. Simulation can enhance the diegetic quality of the game world, making it easier for players to understand the world from their character's
Surprised
perspective.
North Africa was able to make the end of the stream today. What's up tonight?
What's happening, man? Thank you for the $10.
Yeah, thank you for the $10, Thrax. It's good to see you. We're talking about kind of what's the first principles, what are the axioms of role-playing games.
And you tuned in just in time
experience.
because we're reaching sort of the culmination of this Substack article talking about just that from Primeval Fool.
Rule of Thule.
Rule of Thule.
It's
I'm
the
getting
blog
Primeval
is
Fantasy.
Primeval Patterns is
Yeah.
the name of his thing. We have Primeval Fantasy RPG
Yes.
in the chat. Yeah. But can
No proof they're not the same person.
Yeah, that is true. he's pulling a pundit on talking to himself on Twitter. Wow, this is an interesting article. No. Can TTRPG game worlds be envisioned as a giant simulation? Yes, but that is not its telos. Is it telos or telos?
I always say telos.
The thing is, there's something screaming in my mind every time I say telos to say telos, but
Because I think of teleology.
teleology, yeah. But I've also
I don't
heard
know.
people say teleology.
That's fucking wrong.
Yeah, I know that is.
They should be
It's probably telos.
whatever.
I'm going to keep saying telos though for the rest of the
You
stream.
should. Just like you should. Oh God, how do you say Malachi?
Malachi or Malachi?
You always read it Malachi. You
I know.
said, but you say-
I read it Malachi, and then I correct myself and say Malachi.
Yeah. This is deep. We're gonna have to.
I
think
know
about
this. You had some problems. Simulation can enhance the diegetic quality of the game world, making it easier for players to understand the world from their character's perspective. This is a great tool, but it is not the telos of the TTRPG.
Got it.
The most complete concept of the TTRPG is an arena for mastery. After the fact, reconstructed stories can enhance that, and systems-driven simulationist designs can enhance that. But the real purpose of the TTRPG is a game. Stakes on the line, winning, mastery, excellence. Constructed excellence. As designers, it is essential that we envision the future of TTRPGs. We are presently gathering the tools and the will to finally throw off the weight of modern missteps. The goal of crafting TTRPGs that reach further and aspire to be higher instantiations of their inherent form is within our grasp. The closer we get to understanding the highest form of the TTRPG, the more success we will have in creating contenders to battle it out for TTRPG apotheosis. Keep playing, keep rejecting falsehoods, and continue to craft the future of the hobby. Well, I agree with that.
I do agree with that.
fucking heartedly.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Again,
So go
really,
find
really good article.
Go find Rule of Thule on. God damn the fucking mouse. There we go. Go find Rule of Thule on Twitter and follow him. And follow his Substack because
Yes.
it's really, really good stuff. But yeah, he had me until like right at the end. The thing is, I'm not against excellence and winning and mastery, and those are things that your characters are probably going to be attempting to do.
Right.
Get a super chat.
Broke Malachi, woke Malachi, bespoke Malachi.
God damn it.
Thank you, man.
So yeah, most of this article is foundation work. And
Which nobody ever does.
that's
Which
true.
Is, so this is good. Yeah.
None of which I really disagree with in any
Meaningful sense.
tremendous
Yeah.
way, but it is interesting. So he makes a point he makes mention of the fact that RPGs are not goal oriented, and he makes a point against utility or like utilitarianism as like a defining feature. And yet to me, this really is a more utilitarian, game for game's sake, skill versus skill, win the game. I understand there's nuance in his position, but that's the fundamental attitude. It's a game first, and it really does seem to me that while I'm sure he's not strictly opposed to immersion or not appreciative of immersion, really what the purpose, the telos of role-playing for this activity is to better imagine your avatar, the character you're embodying in this challenging, chaotic, freeform world, this sort of formless void that he mentions, which is an interesting way to look at it. There are not explicit win conditions in a tabletop role-playing game that you can sort of win, and so the challenge, you win the game by
none that are divorced from the motivations of the characters. In my perspective, like it is possible for the characters to win by achieving their goals, but the goals are the goals of the character,
right?
And I'm trying to embody the character, but also
not
have this distance from them.
But also my character, just like me as a person, of course, I'm pursuing action, but I'm not always explicitly like taking an action, knowing that I'm trying to achieve my goal. I'm trying to master. You know what I mean? I understand
it's an embodied
what you're
saying.
thing, and the way that this is described, especially with regards to the broader social bleed that he references towards the end, this really does seem like it's a skill-based game kind of thing. That's what's of paramount importance. You can make immersion fit here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, we are talking about first principles, and how is this being portrayed? It's not really immersion focused. Immersion at best is sort of a vector to sort of achieve game world mastery, and then by extension, like, you are a good player because you can embody a character who can survive and can accomplish their goals, and also as a player, you can sort of spin all of these different plates. You're role-playing, you're taking the world seriously. The game isn't telling you the room is burning. I imagine not only is the room burning, but I'm imagining that there are curtains around the door. I'm imagining that, we're in a 1970s house. There's like, I'm wearing polyester clothes. Like, there's an extra flammable hazard to the clothing that I'm
the
wearing.
gasoline pump up my ass like that guy on Twitter.
Right. I win the game.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't agree with, or I don't disagree with his broad assessment. I do disagree with where he puts the fundamental value.
Yeah, it's this paragraph is right here. The complete concept of the TTRPG is as an arena for mastery. After the fact, reconstructed stories can enhance that, and systems-driven simulationist designs can enhance that. But the real purpose of the TTRPG is a game. Stakes on the line, winning, mastery, excellence.
And I think I fundamentally disagree with this. Because I don't fundamentally think the immersion part isn't a game, strictly speaking. It's certainly not strictly speaking in the way it's being defined here. Like, yeah, I can make it work. I get it, but
here's here's where I think I have some overlap with him a little bit. But it's the real purpose of the TTRPG is as a game, stakes on the line, winning, mastery, and excellence. That is how I view like correct philosophy in life.
yes.
We have stakes on the line.
But I sometimes, and a lot of times, in certain situations, at certain moments, maybe even for the entire lifespan of the character, I'm not playing someone who has mastery, and I'm playing someone who's losing, right? Or losing really hard.
Well, that's true, but that doesn't mean that the character is not. Well, this is also why like I hate like I like heroism and stuff a lot more than I used to.
Yeah.
Right. But from the character's perspective, they are always, if you have a goal, you're trying to achieve it. You're trying to win in that sense of achieving your goal. So if this is from the perspective of the character, then I sort of agree with this.
But trying to achieve goals is not the same as achieving them, or excellence or mastery. And I don't view my time wasted or as it being a bad experience. Like my skill and my value and my quote-unquote mastery is not contingent upon the character's success or failure. It seems to be the case here.
This is the thing where I am disagreeing with him. It's like if I substitute this argument into the perspective of the character, then I will agree with him. But the distance of like as a player, the point is my mastery of the game and my pursuit of excellence in playing this game. Those can be two different things, and I don't agree with the distanced or disconnected part of it. Is because I want for me the point is to have the second world or the other world experience and to live in that space. Now within that space, I may be from the perspective of the character trying to do all of these things, trying to accomplish these goals, trying to win, so to speak. But it is only it's the from the perspective of the character.
Who sided with Cain? Ableist.
God damn it.
Are they talking about Catholicism in the chat again?
Yeah,
we should probably check it out.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Possibly.
I don't know.
Or VTM.
I have to think about this a lot more.
Yeah.
This is
but like again, it's
and
like
I'm going to read more of these more of these entries because this was very good.
The notion, like the attempt to pursue goals, right? The fact that
I feel like the conclusion is from a purely game perspective sometimes is literally just experiencing another world experience.
Let me switch back over to our chat window so we can look at some of these.
Because my trying to achieve goals as the character is kind of beside the point. If I'm role-playing, I'm doing that. That's part of what role-playing is.
Right.
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 That really is what role-playing is. You're just describing it on another level. But thank you for the $5.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Conclusion is from a purely war game perspective. Sometimes it is literally just experiencing another world or experience. I think I agree with. I think the conclusion of the article is from a wargaming perspective.
This player character, not either the master of the game, knows how to use the game to facilitate immersion.
What does this say?
It is
player
character, not either or. Player or character.
Oh, player/character, not either or.
A master of the game knows how to use the game to facilitate immersion.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for the $5.
Also, thank you for the $5.
Yeah.
So again, like his position is not wrong on most aspects. And thinking about this is very good. It's a very interesting.
Well, Well, you know what this means, though, right? Since we disagree with him right at the very end,
Yeah.
this is the thing where it's like two guys are standing on the bridge, and he's like, "Oh, you a Christian?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I'm a Christian." "Well, what kind of Christian?" He's like, "Oh, I'm this kind." He's like, "Oh, well, like this kind," or like goes into the sub-factions. They finally get down to the end, and he goes, like, "Die, heretic," and pushes him off. It's like,
Yes.
yeah, that's the conclusion here. Is that
Which has been like the virus that's been going around everywhere. RPG Twitter, right-wing Twitter, YouTube discourse. This like has been happening all week everywhere. Just like people fractioning.
Night Danger says the less you need to ask the GM about the world/lore, the more pure immersion is. This is world mastery. Mr. Max says, so rules like gaming get out of the way more, and world-like games do the same. I don't know. His conclusion seems abstracted from the whole article.
There's a lot of preamble.
It's necessary preamble though, but
I don't think the section going into detail about the Roman general and the Cold War is strictly necessary, but most of that article is necessary to prove his point, and it's certainly of value. And even if it's not strictly necessary, it helps me understand his thought process and putting it together.
Yeah. Telos is a dystopian communication company. Goal achievement, thus winning, varies from player to player. I played my character the best, win. I did the most DPS, win. I survived harder and harder encounters, win. Player had fun, GM win.
I mean, this is the thing. It's like my player fulfillment is disconnected completely from the success or failure of the character. I want to experience what my character is thinking and what they're feeling as best I can.
In the moment, yeah.
Yes, in the moment. And being able to inhabit the mind and the body and feel the emotions of another human being is therefore to experience someone trying to achieve goals.
Well, sure. Yeah.
Right? So it's I think it's another reason why I don't think, or it's another reason why it's clear to me that the immersive aspect is downplayed way more than I would put it. Even if they're not incompatible or he sees the value in it, it is. We are at different starting points, even if we have significant overlap, which I think we do.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of overlap here. Primeval Fantasy says, Rule of Fools essay agrees with many of my conclusions too. Gonna have to set up some YouTube convos with him.
Nice.
I would definitely watch that.
I would watch that.
And I will definitely be reading more of Rule of Fools blog.
Yes.
Anyhow, we are a few minutes over, but since we did start late, we've got probably another 7 or 8 minutes.
All right.
I know we missed like a huge portion of the chat. So we're just going to go with the recent chats because we'll have no context on what anything else was saying. I actually put achievements in a game once. It made players try to fish for them. Shenanigans resulted.
That is always, that's the problem with achievements.
On World Light, I think this is why World of Darkness is so popular with immersive people. You don't need a lore dump to imagine being in Chicago. Yeah,
that's true.
This is also sort of what I went on a tangent about Vampire earlier, but playing horror games, modern horror games, very easy to drop into character, and the fact that you are dealing with something dangerous and mysterious, and it's intended to be that way, and it's in a circumstance that is very, very close to how we live our own lives, it's much easier to produce that immersive experience because it doesn't take as much real imagination to put yourself in that circumstance, you know?
Right.
So that's why I think
In
like,
Chicago, it's nighttime. Got it.
yeah.
You know,
I'm scared.
worst, most horrific part about it.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's horror games are great for an immersive experience. However, you are one archetype of player driven by the immersion. Some players are simply combatants who want to min-max and bash stuff. TTRPGs serve both because of their roots. It does. It does, but this is about deciding which one is better than the other.
Who wins?
Yeah. The goal can't just be immersion. Otherwise, why not just play a murder mystery theater game after dinner with your friends? It's about finding the balance between the rule set and the immersion sought. So the difference between this and the murder mystery, though, is that for me, for the immersion, it's like I need consequences, and it can't just be arbitrarily made up. And I'm not against doing the murder mystery thing or you know any of that stuff, but it's fundamentally different when I have explicit consequences that are out of my hands. You know, they're determined in a fair and neutral way. And that those rules serve to actually reinforce the genre that I'm playing in. So,
right, and you're not limited to a particular situation, a murder mystery, right? The murder mystery is not particularly interesting to me. Being, you know, Harold Clark. Who happens to be here for whatever reason, that's more interesting to me. Inhabiting a character across time in situations, places that are very different or can be different to my own. You know.
Are you sure he wasn't discussing excellent in role play as the ultimate goal versus in character goals?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Yeah. RPG is like a Greek tragedy in some ways. The play is great, even though the characters all end up with very bad outcomes. A great play can have terrible endings for the characters and still be great.
Yeah. Yep.
And when I say less experienced GMs need more rules, I don't mean something like Pathfinder, but something like in the middle to guide but not overwhelm the GM.
I think I would agree with that, broadly speaking. Again, you know, the rules need to be sufficient enough to simulate the world such that enough for me to have some sort
suspension of disbelief.
Suspension of disbelief and an objective, like, an objective air to it.
Purest immersion is LARP. As soon as you sit down at the table, gamism in some degree is inevitable.
I am actually... I mean, so that's not necessarily the case, but it is a temptation, and I feel like that must be true. Like if you're LARPing more of you are, your body is engaged as well.
Right.
You're in costume. Like it must be that way. Now, just like
I mean,
tabletop games have freaks in them, LARPers undoubtedly are worse.
Yeah.
But again, if you could conceivably get, just like you shouldn't suffer bad players at the table, if you had people who weren't freaks and who were taking this seriously with immersion in mind, I don't see how it could be any other way.
Right.
Agreed.
Yes, it lets the players make assumptions about the world because they're familiar with it. The strange elements are usually unknown to the PCs too, so that's all right. I wonder if he's talking about horror.
Probably.
Sorry for the mage tangent, but I got Lore of the Traditions for Mage 20, and I swear to God, an extremely powerful Akashic is reincarnated as a transmasculine MC that is MC search levels of lame. Mixed search, I don't know what any of that means.
It sounds like an accurate rendition of
I mean,
Mage
it's
20,
yeah, it does.
Yeah, you're ascending the spheres. You're speaking Atlantean now, and we can't follow.
The game I'm working on right now is explicitly intended for you to run it with the town or city you live in as the setting for this reason. Interesting.
Not a bad idea.
I think the absence of specific word immersion makes it seem like your view and the article view are further apart than they actually are. They're very close. They're very, very close. But again, like I said, this is the case of the minorest difference is what determines if, we're pushing each other off. Yeah, exactly. Pushing each other off of bridges or going to war. Yeah.
I also don't think the sticking point is the absence of the word immersion. I think it's pretty clear that there isn't really any consideration to actual character role play as we mean it.
Right. This is where Argon eudaimonia comes in. The height of the activity is the thing that RPGs can do that no other activity can do. There is an objective factor to this. It's not purely preferential. Correct.
Agreed. Big agree.
It's multifaceted. Immersion is fun. Immersion is useful for decision making. Immersion is useful for mental mapping and imagining the scenario. True.
Yeah. And again, agree or disagree, how much overlap do we have? Do we disagree completely? Do we agree 80%? It doesn't
it's binary. We're enemies.
We're enemies forever.
Yeah.
But under a certain perspective, again, this is why first principles are important to think about. Even if we disagree, I know I've at least thought about why I think the way I do. You've thought about what you want and why you think the way that you do.
Mm-hmm.
We can have a more interesting conversation, and we can actually get, maybe some interesting things, some useful things from each other that you can't do with a grug brain.
Oh, here we go. MC Search was a rapper from the late 80s.
Oh,
He's
man.
like if the concept of white guilt had a rap career.
Yikes.
War games, the scenario you're playing out is fixed. The options are fixed. The evolution of TTRPG simply stripped that small unit of his limitations and empowers asking the question, what if?
That's a big part of it, and and that gets laid out in the article as well, and I think that's correct.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just it's Eastland versus Westland.
People LARPing need gamism just as much as the TTRPGers because they are not athletic folks.
Yeah.
That's true. The article was great. The conclusion fell out of left field considering the content. I don't feel like it was out of left field.
I think he was. It was a lot of preamble, but I do think it's consistent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let me see here. Cool. Well, I think we've caught up relatively to when we started. I think we've been going for about 2 hours.
Nice.
Anyway, this was a lot of fun.
This is fun.
Interesting. We like talking about this stuff.
If anybody has any other Substacks or video essays or what have you, send them our way.
Send them our way. But anyways, otherwise, guys, we're going to say goodnight to you. And thank you for joining us. We will we'll see you again next week on Thursday. And we'll talk to you soon. Thank you, guys.
Later on, guys.